Alrighty, let's take a look at this here rooster tail right here, right now. As you see, this lovely little lure called the rooster tail is one of the most iconic, possibly iconic, widely known, widely distributed fishing lures of all time. I think it would have to be the rooster tail would be somewhere in that list. It's been around forever. It seems like any tackle box that you come across is going to have a rooster tail in it. You know, they're made in different sizes. Of course, variation in the color of the rooster tail itself. Of course, that's where it gets its name, is the dressing on the back of the treble hook. Most of them are equipped with a treble hook, but I'm sure you can get them with single hooks and such as that. But for the most part, the ones you'll find on the shelf are going to be treble hooks, which for a beginning fisherman could be a problem. For advanced fishermen, you know, not a big deal. For what we do right here on Fort Loudon, it is a great bait. All right. One of the things that you can really use it effectively for is catching white bass. All right, now not a lot of people give a lot of credit to white bass. It's just one of those things that for whatever reason a lot of people enjoy catching. I see people all the time specifically fishing for white bass, but on the big world of YouTube, for some reason they don't really seem to, the algorithm can't distinguish white bass. It's something about that. Terminology will almost always kill your video, and I learned that. It took me a while to figure out that, hey, it don't matter what kind of video I put out. If it's got white bass in the title, it's going to kill it for me. So, I mean, I'm sure there's some guys out there that have put out some white bass fishing videos and they've had some love, but for me, I haven't really got that love. So we're not going to title this thing anything to do with white bass, but we're going to talk about the white bass. So back to the rooster tail, right here on Fort Loudon, the best color is this kind of a silverish color you see here, silverish white. And of course the rooster tail itself is white. And this is in the 1/6 of an ounce. Alright, now for the setup I use and the depth of the water where I fish in general, about 1/6 of an ounce is about perfect for the white bass on Fort Loudon. So your waterways will be different. Of course, if you're fishing a creek, that's going to be different. Fishing a small stream, you know, that's going to be, you know, obviously quite a big difference there. So they make these in big, medium, small, all sizes in between. So you can take a look and try to match up your size fishing outfit. You know, fishing a small stream and you got a smaller outfit, then you may want to go down to a smaller rooster tail. If you're not careful, you can get your line twisted up kind of bad because it does spin. A lot of people like to use what's called a swivel. If you're new to fishing, the old swivel, here is a swivel that I have tied on up some distance from the lure. This is a little trick you can do. If you don't want to tie the swivel right to the lure, kind of fix yourself a leader between where you tie the lure on. You can come up to the swivel, and if you want to have a different size pound test down here on the leader, you can do that, or you can keep it the same. In my situation, I've got an 8-pound leader made from the same line as my main monofilament line on my trusty spinning reel. Alright, so I got the same 8-pound test here, 8-pound right here, but I do have that separated by that little swivel right there, and hopefully a good swivel like that should help you from getting your line twisted up. So as far as catching white bass, right now, between say now springtime, late springtime, going into early summer, say all of May through the summer, and then through all the way through fall into October, you can always catch white bass pretty much during that period of time. So here's a few baits that you might find useful. I'm not saying go out and buy any of these baits, but these are just a few baits that I happen to find in the tackle box of a local fisherman. So here's another bait that I love to use. It's called the Little Cleo. Alright, this Little Cleo spoon is just basically what it is. It's just a spoon. Just a slab of metal bent a little bit with a treble hook on it. Well, right there, 1/4 ounce, 1/4 ounce right there. So if you look on the back, again, this came from a local fisherman. And if you look on the back right there, you'll see it says Wins. That was our discount sporting goods store here in the local area for years and years. When I was a kid, they had a store there. Long gone now, but so this little Clio's got a little age to it. This happens to be gold colored, and that's good. The gold color would definitely catch them for you. I'd prefer kind of silver if I was fishing for the white bass. Any of those colors would work. Here's some other lures. This little lure here, called a Little George. Check out that Little George right there. What a name. You cannot go wrong with a name like Little George. See, I got this manual focus lens. I got it focused real close for the lure, but it's not an autofocus lens, so if I don't lean up here into it, I still probably not quite in focus right there. Anywho, Little George, 1 ounce Little George. Now to me this is a little heavy for what I would want to use. If you can see the back of it there. This is a man's product, quality guaranteed, made in America. This is an older lure, kind of coming out of the package here. But I have seen fishermen use the Little George. I have seen guys use this Little George on Fort Loudon from the bank. I saw a guy who was tossing this, catching all kinds of white bass on a Little George right there. I haven't used it, but this one looks good. It's got a nice look to it. You know, again, Man's Bait Company. This is an older one. I don't know who makes the Little George today. I think I'll just keep this one in the package for sentimental reasons, man. Cause it says Man's Bait on it, man. You know what I'm saying, man? So here's another bait that would maybe work. You know, when the white bass are really coming up out of the water, they'll hit top water. So you got this little thing right here called a popper. I'm sure a lot of people fished with it. But to me, you'd need them to be really hitting the top of the water quite a bit. You know, if you're in a school of white bass and they're doing their feeding frenzy thing, I'm sure if you threw this out in the middle of the school of fish, you'd get one to hit it. So otherwise, once they go back down, you're definitely going to be better off going back to something like the Rooster tail that can get down there a little bit. You know, a little Clio that can get down there a little bit. Or that Little George that can get down there a whole lot, you know, because it's heavy. It's a heavy one. You might throw it out there one time. The very first time you throw your Little George out there, and bam, it gets hung up and it's lost forever. So be cognizant of that little thing that could happen to your wonderful Little George, vintage Little George at that, and you throw it out there one time and get it hung up. Don't be that guy. Please don't be that guy. And another lure that we have right here. This is called the Cotton Cordell Super Spot. Alright, now I've never fished with this, but I thought, you know, that does look like a good bait that would catch a white bass for sure. I fished with similar baits before, and trolling with something like this, which is a very effective way to catch white bass. Once they go back down below the surface and they're still schooling around somewhere, this little Cotton Cordell Super Spot, it's a 1/2 ounce, would definitely do the trick. It's a little bit on the big side, but it would for sure, you'd definitely be able to catch them with this. Ain't no doubt about that. It's got a little heft to it, so it's going to, you know, you're going to be able to throw it out there a bit. And little baits like this, if you're trolling, you know, you could try crank baits like this. This is also a man's bait right here. It's called a Baby 1-. It's the world's #1 super shallow runner. Dives 12 inches or less. So this is the man, Baby 1-. Baby 1-. This is the man's Baby 1-. It's the world's #1 super shallow runner. Dives 12 inches or less. Slow retrieve. The lure will run 1 to 2 inches below the surface, producing a bulge and wake. Fast retrieve. The lure will run to a maximum depth of 12 inches. Experiment with different retrieves to see what the fish want. Eagle Claw and Laser Sharp are registered trademarks of Wright and McGill Company. Did anyone really know that? Man's Bait Company. Man Bait Company. Eufaula, Alabama. www.Man's Bait Company. So I guess they're still in business right there. If you got your www stuff going on, by golly, you got some business going on. But anyways, this is kind of interesting. This would be a good bait to use on Fort Loudon, actually. If you can see that, if I can just quit acting silly and kind of hold that up, take a good look at it right there. That's the Baby 1 Minus again. Man's Bait Company. Look there, they've got a Native American. I shouldn't even mention that because the algorithm might want to question me on why am I mentioning something like that in my video. Why am I talking about that in my video? But that about does it. Here's a pack of swivels. You can use swivels on the front of your lures if you want. I prefer not to. But this is a pair of vintage swivels. I don't know how old they are, but they got this cool little graphic of a fisherman catching a fish right there. Now this is good old school stuff. Manufactured in China. Well, China, see, that's, you can't get nothing anymore that ain't manufactured in China. So that right there is fraud, man. It's got an American looking guy catching a big bass right there, and it's made in China. And it's like, give me a break. That's some kind of fraud right there. Anyways, maybe not. Maybe I'm just overreacting. So anyways, thanks for watching this video right here and tolerating me while I'm way out of focus right there. But we will be getting back in focus. I can say for one thing, I can just always move closer. Just always move closer.